Hello and welcome to part one of the Pandemic Puppies, How to Build Confidence One Paw at a Time webinar. My name is Jessica Benoit and I will be walking you through this presentation. So a little bit about myself. I am a registered veterinary technologist. I'm a veterinary technician specialist in behavior, a certified professional dog trainer, Care Empire Academy certified training partner, and as well, I am fear-free certified as a veterinary professional trainer, and I speak on behalf of Fear Free as well. Shelby is the other trainer on the companion veterinary clinic training team. She is also a registered veterinary technologist. She's a Karen Pryor Academy certified training partner. She is certified as a veterinary professional and trainer as well through Fear Free, and she is low stress handling certified. So we are going to discuss puppy development, canine body language, puppy play, tips for exposure during COVID, and prevention and management of common behavior concerns, as well as enrichment. So our goal really is to help you understand your puppy so that they can build confidence and you guys can have a healthy relationship for their entire lives. It's really important that we use positive reinforcement when we're doing this to help build that trusting relationship. And we want to prevent and modify unwanted behaviors through humane training techniques. So what are our concerns? Really, a lack of socialization due to restriction, delayed independence from owners, and we are seeing an increase in separation-related behaviors because of this, and increased fear with unfamiliar people, other dogs, other stimulus, cars, bikes, that sort of thing, because these puppies aren't going out as much as they normally would, and they're not having as much exposure. We are seeing an increase in fear. So puppy development, essentially the neonatal period is from birth to 10 days. And so there's complete dependence on mother for everything, for temperature, for food, urinating, defecating. And then they go into the transitional period, which is between 11 days and about 3 weeks, 21 days. And it's important that at this time, the breeder, if your puppy is from a breeder, is exposing them to various tastes and scents, handling, exposure to different temperature gradients, various sights and sounds are recommended. Vision occurs around 2 weeks, 14 days, and the ears open around 21 days, and then thermal regulation occurs at this time as well. So you will see puppies start to leave the nest and slowly start to explore their environment. So one of the most crucial periods is the puppy's sensitive period, and that's between 3 to 12 weeks. In some literature, it goes up to 14 weeks. And what's important is that puppies do have some social play with other puppies and dogs. And we see a decrease in play after 10 weeks of age already. And so that's why it's important that they are playing. And this is why it can sometimes be difficult for singleton puppies, so that they didn't have any other brothers or sisters in their litter to learn to be social with other dogs. So puppies form lasting cognitive and emotional impressions during this time, and this is why it's such a critical period of learning. And we really emphasize more controlled, positive experiences, because going forward, that's going to help your dog become more confident. So as per the American Veterinary Society of Animal Behavior, it is recommended that puppies are in a safe environment, such as an indoor puppy class that has a vaccine protocol. They have had an examination from a veterinarian, and they are on a schedule to have their vaccines completed, but they should be in puppy class prior to being fully vaccinated. This is really, really important, and there's still a bit of a misconception in the veterinary world about waiting until puppies are fully vaccinated. But if we do this, we are missing out on their sensitive period of learning, and that window starts closing after 12 to 4 weeks of age. And so we can come into trouble. We do see an increased fear, anxiety, aggression with puppies that did not have appropriate socialization and exposure options during their sensitive period. So after your sensitive period is your juvenile period, and that's from about 12 weeks to an average of 9 months. It really is breed dependent. The speed of learning slows down around 16 weeks of age, so around 4 months, you're going to see an increase in activity, excitability, and independence. And some of that is hormone related because we've got teenagers on our hands now. And so they do want to explore, they do want to check things out. Neophobia, so a fear of unknown things, fear of stimuli, things in the environment. This can occur with a lack of exposure. And so we are going to see this during the juvenile period if they didn't have appropriate exposure during their sensitive period. It is important that they continue learning during this time. We don't just stop after puppy class and no longer continue training. Training is a lifelong process. We do see a high rate of relinquishment during the juvenile period as well. And then you get into your adolescent period. And so whenever your dog hits sexual maturity, and that can be 6 months, it can be 9 months, to about 2 to 3 years of age is considered adolescence. And so we see a more profound effect with training and behavior disorders. And that's usually because there's been a lack of training prior to this point. And now these are bigger dogs, usually they're more mature, and the behaviors are a little bit more consistent and learned often during this time. And you're going to see an increase in territorial behavior is what the literature tells us. And there is a high rate of relinquishment during this period of time as well. So it's really important that we do start these puppies off as early as we can with training. Fear periods occur between about 8 and 10 weeks. And we also see more fear periods as well between 3 months and 14 months of age. And so by definition, it is a period of increased fearfulness and likely permanent retention of fear. And so that is why we do want to be exposing our puppies, but we really want to be mindful of how we do that. And we want to move at their pace and use a lot of positive reinforcement to help them make associations that are positive with lots of different objects, people, animals, and that sort of thing. If your puppy is behaving fearfully, remove them from the situation, please comfort them. And maybe try and start either from further away from whatever is scaring them, or remove them completely for that day and try again another day. So let's talk about body language. This is really how we can ensure the emotional welfare of our dogs for their lifetime. The better we get at reading their body language, the better off they are going to be. And so a happy, relaxed dog, generally their mouths are open, ears are forward, their tails usually are midline with their body and they're wagging loosely. And sometimes they might even be a little further down. And their body weight is evenly distributed on their front paws and their back paws. So these are pictures of happy, relaxed dogs. You can see their mouths are open, their eyes are soft. And so what do we want to be looking for in our puppies? Like when they're out and about, they should be curious. They are orienting to the environment. They're soliciting attention from people. They're confident. If they do get startled, they recover quickly. So these are things that we want to look for in our puppies. So this is a video example of a bold puppy. You can see the puppy interacting with this scary toy. And the trainer there is giving treats while the puppy interacts so that we can ensure there's going to be a positive association made with this child's toy. When we're looking at anxiety and fear, we are looking at panting, yawning, lip licking. Vocalizations are often whining, barking. Their pupils may be dilated. They may be averting their gaze. So they're kind of looking away from you and pretending that you don't exist. Ears can often be sideways or back, and their head is usually lower than the rest of their body. Their tails are tucked tight. Sometimes it's really even hard to see them. And their body posture is crouched low. They could be stiff. They could be trembling. So these are all things that you're going to see with anxiety and fear. Other signs of stress that you want to be watching for is panting, yawning, lip licking, shedding, trembling, drooling. Whale eye is averting gaze. So in this picture, you can see the white part of the dog's eye, and she's looking away from the person that is near her. They will often have an inability to eat. So if you have your puppy in a situation and they will not take food, that is a very big indicator that they are uncomfortable. So these are dogs displaying signs of stress. You have one yawning, one licking their lips, and the paw lift there. Sometimes the paw lift, it's very dependent. Some dogs do it when they are stressed. Other dogs, it's a normal behavior repertoire for them. So every dog is a little bit different. It's important to remember that. But look at the context of the situation. So in this video, this dog is displaying a number of signs of stress. And so it's important to recognize that. So I'm just going to play it so you can get an idea of how to do that.
That can help us with behavior and separation anxiety.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
There we go.
Yes, I know.
Oh, yeah. So this dog in the video pants, yawns, starts sniffing the ground, which is actually a displacement behavior, which is also a sign of stress. And then you see that tail is tucked all the way under the dog's carriage. So it really is a stressed dog. So this is a video of a less confident puppy. And this is a nice video in opposition to the very confident puppy. And so you can see that this dog is not as comfortable with this toy.
Hey, what's this? Oh. Good girl. Good girl. Here, will you even take off of it? Oh, sorry, got one a little close.
And so the tail wag on this dog is actually pretty low and it's not very relaxed. And every time the toy goes off and makes a sound, the dog starts kind of backing up. A lot of weight is on this dog's back feet, which is an indication that it's a little bit uncomfortable. It is taking food. And so we're hoping with this scenario that we can help counter condition or change the dog's opinion by using food with this child's toy. But that's just something to be able to recognize. And so if you're working or seeing a dog that's behaving defensively aggressive, usually you're going to have a tight, closed mouth. They will be averting gaze because they are trying to diffuse the situation. These guys do not want to be aggressive. Often it's just a last resort. They've displayed lots of other signs of body language and given warning cues. And so that's usually kind of how bites evolve, is that we didn't see and recognize the body language prior to what occurred. And so you'll see ears back, head is lower than the body, the tail might be tucked, the body is low and crouched, and you're gonna maybe hear some growling, whimpering, whining, or barking. And so these guys often are not deciding, but they're in their fight flight brain. And so it's like, do we flee? Do I fight? How do I get myself out of this situation? And that's where you often will hear the growls. And we get so offended by growls, but they're very much a warning to let you know that the dog is uncomfortable. And you probably need to, whatever they're growling at needs to be removed. It's a distance increasing behavior. So they really want whatever it is that's scaring them to go away. So offensively aggressive dogs, often this is learned. And so what happens is often these dogs are usually defensively aggressive initially, and then they learn that the growling, snarling, barking, lunging makes the scary thing go away faster. And it absolutely should. But that's where you see what looks like a lot more confidence in a dog. It's not necessarily that that's how they're feeling, but that's what it looks like. And so their face is hard and tense, their noses are wrinkled. Often you can see their teeth if they're growling. Their eyes are straight, looking directly at the object, unlike your defensively aggressive dogs who are kind of averting gaze and trying to look away. Their ears are forward and up. Their tails are usually straight up, like an alert position. You're going to see some piloerection, and what piloerection is what people call hackles. And so the fur is standing up on their bodies. Their stance is forward and tall, and you will hear growling, snarling with teeth bared usually. And so these dogs are very clearly indicating that they would like that stimulus to go away. So smiles or submissive grins, you don't see these very often, but these are appeasement type behaviors usually. So they'll pull their lips up vertically, display their incisors and their canines. And these dogs are not snarling or being aggressive. They are really trying to diffuse the situations. They're feeling vulnerable. There is a difference. This is not a dog. These dogs are not displaying submissive grins. These dogs are snarling. So you get more retraction on the lips up by the molars, and they are usually staring directly at what is causing them stress. And so once you're able to read body language, we should really understand how to greet dogs and how to do this safely. So we do not want to reach over their head. We don't want to run up to them. We shouldn't be sticking our hands in their faces, because if you do that and a dog is uncomfortable, your fingers are much closer to their mouths. And so we really don't recommend that. We do not give dogs hugs and kisses, and children love to do this. But it is really unsafe, and it is absolutely not recommended. They do not like it. If you look at the social media pictures and videos of people hugging dogs, you see a lot of yawning and panting and averting gaze. And those are all signs of stress. So do not grab them or come up to them from behind, because it's startling, and do not stare at them directly. How do you greet a dog? Often you just let them come to you. I tell people that a lot, is that if the dog wants to say hi, you'll know it, because they'll come up to you. They might put their weight on you, start sniffing you. And even sniffing is not necessarily an indication that a dog wants to communicate with you. They are trying to get information, and that's how they do that, is by sniffing. If you do feel that the dog is interested in having attention from you, you can turn sideways or crouch down onto one knee. We do recommend that you look away from the dog. We don't usually like to pet them over top of their head like we normally do. Dogs prefer to be pet on their neck and shoulder area. And we do like to speak in a calm and quiet tone. So let's talk about puppy play. And because with restrictions, sometimes you need to get very creative about finding puppy playmates for your dog. And so it's important that you can recognize what normal and abnormal play looks like. So play is, the function of it is to learn social cues and practice motor skills. It really is varied between breed and personality. It should always be supervised, and you should be choosing playmates carefully, because there is the possibility, especially during the sensitive period, that we can cause trauma if we do not have an appropriate playmate for our puppies. And so what does a playful puppy look like? Well, the mouth is open, their tongue is out. You might see a play bow, which is what you can see in these pictures, is where their elbows are down on the ground and their bums are up in the air. Their ears are forward. They're looking at the object of play. Tails are up. And they may bark, they might growl sometimes, and that's often just to solicit play. So this is what inappropriate play looks like. And so this is an adult dog and a puppy, but it's important to know kind of when to intervene and when to know when your dog is uncomfortable.
So if you watch this right now, you see what looks like two dogs playing. But what I want you to do is take a look at Emmy, see how stiff she is, see how she's baring teeth. She's really telling Chunga that she doesn't want to be playing. And now Chunga, on the other hand, if you watch him, he's loosey-goosey. He has no clue that Emmy doesn't want to be playing. This is really important to watch. Now, with Em here, she's giving really clear signals of leave me alone. And Chunga just thinks it's play. And the reason being Chunga just thinks it's play is because Chunga doesn't understand, because Emmy weighs so much less than he does. So here we go. Now this is escalation. So at this point, I would literally not let it go any further. I would go and interrupt. I shouldn't let my dog have to make these decisions, especially with a dog who is not understanding body language. Just a really quick lesson for you, and something that you want to pay attention to when you're watching your dogs. Let me go help Emmy. Have a great day.
And then when we want to look at appropriate puppy play, it should be fun and relaxed. They should be demonstrating role reversal. So one will chase one, then one will chase the other. You're going to hear barking. You might hear some growling. It's perfectly normal. The puppy should always want to go back for more. And if you're seeing puppies that are kind of hiding between legs, trying to crawl under chairs and are trying to get away, they're not having a good time. And so it's important that they're removed from that situation.
Beautiful dog, but he's like 9 years old and has no interest in playing with Diego, and Diego tries desperately to get stepped on.
And then this is older puppies playing.
Dr. Benoit guessed 42 pounds. 42 that was his guess. Oh, for her weight? Yeah, we asked. I was like,
And that little dog is just watching, which is perfectly fine.
Yeah.
She's observing and she's still learning. So that's what's really important, is that often we feel like our dogs need to be playing if other puppies are playing, and they don't. They can learn by watching and moving at their pace and observing. And so that's absolutely safe and important for them to do. This is a really good video on dog body language. And it's important if your dog is social and wants to be around a lot of other dogs, that you know kind of when to remove them and when they are uncomfortable. So this is a great video on that.
The puppy is anxious about this interaction. He's trying to appease the other dogs so they go easy on him. This dog is very appropriately trying to calm the puppy down. He's really had enough and doesn't want to play. This dog wasn't sure how the interaction was going to go. It was perhaps a little tense, and now he's having a stress shake-off. Whilst you can see lots of teeth and maybe even hear some growling, this is appropriate play between the puppy and the older dog. This dog's body language is not good. He wants to chase the puppy and not in a fun way. This dog's exaggerated bow at the smaller dog is an invitation to play, often to initiate chase. There are two examples of sniffing here. One is appropriate, the lower picture, and the other is overbearing and inappropriate, the upper picture. The body language of both these dogs suggests that they're feeling relaxed in their greeting. The larger dog is tense and defensive. It wants the other dog to back off, and it may lead to aggression if it doesn't listen. This is an appropriate response from the adult dog who's asking the puppy to leave him alone. He's probably tried more subtle things which have been ignored first. It's your job to look out for signs that your dog is not feeling very comfortable in their interactions with others. You must step in to help them, not leave them to sort it out for themselves. Equally, if your dog's confident, they might be pushy towards other dogs and not listen to their request for them to back off, in which case it's your job to step in. Don't leave them to sort it out themselves or for the other dog to tell them off.
So the other thing to consider with socialization is if you are looking into a daycare option for your puppies, what should you be looking for? Initially, it would be recommended that puppies are fully vaccinated before they go to daycare. There should be about one supervisor per 8 dogs. And one per 3 to 4 puppies is ideal, and volume needs to be low. That can be a concern with daycares, is sometimes there's too many dogs and it can be very, very overwhelming. Puppies require up to 18 hours of sleep sometimes a day, and that can be very difficult in a daycare setting for them to get restful sleep. And then you can see more agitated puppies and some other behavior problems evolve. It's important to ask if your puppy can have breaks from play, and this is because they need appropriate rest. We need to be asking, what's your training philosophy? And the answer should be positive reinforcement. What do you do when the dogs do these things? So sometimes dogs will jump at the gates, or they jump on staff, or they're barking, and we need to understand exactly how that daycare is going to deal with that. They should not be using spray bottles. They should not be yelling. They should not be kneeing dogs for jumping up on them or on the gates. And it's important to know how they break up a dog fight. And so these are all things that you should be asking a daycare before enrolling your puppy in a daycare. So we do not recommend for puppies dog parks. If you're doing a puppy social during their sensitive period, there should be about 3 dogs per 1 trainer. And we don't recommend taking them to a children's park or a classroom, as that is often very overwhelming for puppies. And we could be in a situation where we're starting to flood them, which means they're placed in a situation where a potentially scary stimulus, like children, for example, are kind of crowding them, and there's more, and they're touching them and they're loud, and that can be very scary for a new puppy. And so it's really much more beneficial for them to meet 2 or 3 children at a time, get some treats from them, learn to behave calmly before placing them in a situation. And this happens with dog parks. Dog parks are not recommended for multiple reasons for puppies, but one is that they will not have a reliable recall, so they will not come when they're called. They can't go to a dog park unless they're fully vaccinated, because there is an infectious disease risk in that case. And also, we do not know the behavioral history of other dogs at a dog park. So it is very much a gamble. And I have seen things go very, very wrong with dogs that have been to dog parks. And so it's just not a safe environment, I don't think, for puppies or for the majority of adult dogs. So socialization. Let's talk about what it is and how we can do this during COVID. So socialization is the process of learning to behave in a socially acceptable way. In dog training, it refers to the act of exposing young puppies and kittens to novel people, objects, handling noises, and other sensations in a positive way. And so these are things that you can do during this pandemic to help your puppy become exposed and do so in a safe and positive manner. You can take trips to children's parks. You are not allowed to have your dog in children's parks in Edmonton, but you can watch from a distance, and they can be getting treats while they're watching these children running and screaming and playing and having a great time. And they learn that every time I see these things, good things happen. Car rides are wonderful. If your puppy, however, though, is not feeling well in the car, please discuss that with your veterinarian. It's very important to get help for that, so that if it is that your puppy is not feeling well in the car, if that goes untreated, often it can lead to anxiety. And sometimes vice versa. Sometimes they have anxiety in the car. And so it's important to talk to your veterinarian about that. Walk around the neighborhood. Observe new people, dogs, vehicles. They don't need to go say hi to people or the other dogs, but they can absolutely see them, get some treats, and continue walking. Encourage your puppy to walk over and around and under different surfaces, obstacles, Sewer grates, a children's park without children in it are wonderful for puppies to play on. Play dates with other known dogs with similar play styles. So that needs to be a calm, fully vaccinated adult dog, or a puppy that is kind of on the same vaccine schedule as your puppy, and they can play in a backyard, which is a safe outdoor environment. Please practice veterinary handling to recreate a vet clinic experience, because right now a lot of vet clinics are running curbside. And so your puppy gets separated from you, which can be stressful for them. So it's really important that they learn that veterinary handling can be a fun and positive game for them. So listen to soundtracks of different sounds. During the summer months, we have thunderstorms and fireworks. So it's really important that what we do is we play those sounds at a level that does not produce a fearful response. So we are not seeing any signs of stress, and we could give them a food dispensing toy when they listen to these things. And as soon as the sound goes away or gets turned off, so do the treats. So essentially the sounds predict something good, and we can produce a positive emotional response to these sounds. Put on different costumes, please. Halloween can be a nightmare for some dogs, and it really helps them generalize to other different appearances that they might see when they're out and about. Mock door greetings with family members is really important, because right now we don't have people coming over to our homes, but that does not mean that we can't practice having people over and what that's going to look like for your puppy and what's going to be expected of them. So what does this sort of exposure during COVID look like? We're watching from a distance. This allows your puppy to remain calm and process what they're seeing. Use treats. Take your kibble out, take your treats out to help them make a positive association with what they're looking at. Do not force them into any situations that can make them uncomfortable. Allowing a stranger to pet them sometimes. It really depends on your puppy. And because you're going to get very good at reading their body language, you'll know whether they're comfortable being pet by a stranger or not comfortable. Be mindful of the developmental stage your puppy is in. Could we potentially be dealing with a fear period between 8 and 10 weeks of age? If your puppy maybe has normally been really social and wants to say hi to all the people they meet on walks, and then that day that you take them out, maybe they're kind of have their ears back or their tail low and they're moving away. That's a huge indicator that they don't want to socialize today. They're not robots. I often say that to people. Dogs aren't robots. So they have their own emotions. They have their opinions. They have feelings. They have likes and dislikes. And so they're not going to behave exactly the same from day to day. So it's important they have individual personalities and needs to remember that, and that what's their learning history. Did you adopt a puppy that wasn't around other puppies in their litter or hasn't seen other people? They may be less confident already and may need to move more slowly and at their own pace, at a different pace than maybe a dog that came from a breeder that did a lot of socialization and was around a lot of dogs and livestock and that sort of thing. So puppy training, let's talk a little bit about puppy training and the prevention and management that goes along with it. So environmental management, food management, is managing food specifically, is using kind of timed feedings. Puppies are usually fed 3 times a day. It's recommended that they are fed out of food dispensing toys, ones that are easy for them to do initially. They don't cause frustration. So snuffle mats are really good for that. Kongs are really good. West Paw toys are really, really good because the opening on those toys are really easy for the puppies to access. You can use their treats for training and their food for training as well. We want to avoid, when we're managing the environment, we want to avoid situations that elicit the unwanted behavior. So if your puppy is jumping at people that are at the front door or your children when they're running, we want to work on what can they do instead, teach that behavior, but in the meantime, really try and avoid the situation that causes the unwanted behavior. And so, yes, we teach the behavior you want outside of the environment first. So if we're looking for 4 feet on the floor rather than jumping, we want to teach 4 feet on the floor without children running first, and then use that 4 feet on the floor behavior, that response substitution, and place and work on it with running children. So we use treats. And the reason we recommend so many treats is because food is a primary reinforcer for dogs. They need it to survive. So it's highly motivating. It allows them to make positive associations with new experiences. And we do recommend higher value treats in more distracting or potentially frightening situations. So in the vet clinic, for example, we'll use a lot of Cheese Whiz and hot dogs, tuna, like high value treats. And in the home, you might be able to train with kibble, which is wonderful. And then when you go out and you're taking your puppy for their first walk, I would recommend using high value treats, chicken, cheese, that sort of thing. So when we're talking about house training, we really want to follow a schedule. So I do often have clients set a timer on their phone. And so every 1 to 2 hours, your puppy's going out for a bathroom break. We want to give treats for them going to the appropriate location to have a potty break. We want to be supervising them when they're in the home, and we never want to be punishing them. We do not yell or put their face in their feces or their urine, as this is going to increase fear, anxiety, and stress. And it's going to just teach them that you are untrustworthy and potentially scary. And it never teaches them what they're supposed to do instead. And often, if I have met dogs that have been house trained using punishment, they will often find somewhere else to go to the bathroom where they can't be caught. So they still haven't learned where they're supposed to go to the bathroom, but they have learned if they go to the bathroom in front of you, something bad happens. We have a wonderful house training handout on our website that's for free as well. And that can be very helpful for step-by-step instructions. Crate training or confinement training, not every dog is going to be crate trained, and that is okay. I think it's a very valuable skill for puppies and dogs to have if they're very comfortable doing it. And if not, I would discuss with a training professional how the best way to go about teaching it, or teaching an alternative confinement space for your puppy. So crate training helps with house training, travel, emergencies. It's important that we make a positive association with the crate. So the crate predicts food. I often recommend that people just hide treats in their dog's crate throughout the day, and when they choose to go in on their own, they can find the treats. The other thing is you can do some training so that they learn to build a duration with their crate. I don't often recommend that puppies are placed in their crate the first few nights that they're home. And if you're going to do so, that you bring the crate up to your bedroom, because that can be very, very scary to be moved into a new home and then be socially isolated. So it does very quickly make negative associations with crate training. And so I do not recommend it. So here's a video on crate training and what that can look like.
Hello, in this video we're going to discuss crate training. Crate training is a wonderful management tool for dogs. It's really good if you have children. It's good if you have a dog that likes to jump at the front door, or that's a little bit uncomfortable when there's a lot of guests over. It's a safe space for them to be. We want them to love their kennels. We never want to use it as punishment, so please do not do that. You can feed them in it. You can give them food dispensing toys in it. We're going to play a couple crate games here. I'm going to show you what those look like. And then you can also do the crate fairy, which is just hiding treats randomly in the kennel, and when your dog goes to check it out during the day, if you leave the door open, which I recommend you do, they might get something awesome. So Roscoe's in the kennel right now, so I will click and treat him for being in here. But then I'm going to click and I'm going to toss my treat out, because what we want to do is start teaching them the cue in your house or kennel up. And so while they're making their way into the kennel or close to it, you'll click and treat them. So you're just going to shape this behavior. He looks in the kennel, he gets a click and treat. He puts one foot in, which he has right now, and he gets a click and treat. And I'm just slowly clicking and treating him. He missed that one. There you go. Good boy. As he makes his way in. Good job. And when he gets 4 feet in, we make a big, huge deal. Good boy. Good job. And you can do a few clicks and treats here. Good boy. And then I can tell him free or relax or out of your house in order to have him come out. So as he walks in, I'll say, in your house. And then I'm going to click and treat. And he did that a little quicker than some dogs do. He's older. So he picks things up a little bit more quickly, I find. So that's the cue, is in your house. And then I'm going to close the kennel door. Careful not to hit his tail. And while he's hanging in there, as long as he's not barking or whining or carrying on, I'm going to click and treat him. If that's happening, then you've closed the door too soon and your dog's just not comfortable with having the door closed yet. And then after a few seconds, I will open it up and I'll tell him free, and I'll click and treat him. Good boy, and that means he's free to come on out. Thank you for watching. Good boy.
So puppy biting, this is definitely one of the biggest concerns, I think, with puppies because they have such sharp teeth. So it's important to remember that all puppies mouth and bite as part of normal exploration and play. We do not want to yell at them, start laughing, running away. That does tend to reinforce the behavior, even though that's not our intention. We also do not want to hit them, grab their mouths, push your finger in their mouths. That is going to cause them to be likely more scared of interacting with you and also of hands coming near their face. So what we do is recommend that you redirect them to an appropriate independent activity like a chew toy. We avoid right now as puppies playing roughly with them because they're really trying to learn what is appropriate and what's not appropriate. And that kind of sets them up to fail because you're playing with your hands with them and they don't understand that they're not allowed to bite hands. And if you start going, hey, no, every time they bite hands, now it's very conflicting for them. And that conflicted feeling can often increase fear and anxiety and stress. So we want to try and stop interactions before they start biting. So often owners can recognize that their puppies are getting really excited with the interaction. And that's kind of where we should start slowing things down and calming the interaction down before the biting starts. Often redirecting them to a toy helps, asking for a known cued behavior. So if they can sit or touch and then reinforce that instead. I do promise that it stops, but often they're teething, right? They need to have appropriate chew toys. And so that's where this comes in. So these are some appropriate teething toys that can help with your puppy's biting and teething behavior. And so it's really important that these are readily available for your puppies to help decrease puppy biting and also give them an outlet for that behavior for their chewing, because you'll also see them start chewing baseboards and shoes and other items, and it's just because their mouths are sore. So an introduction to equipment, I don't recommend we just put a harness on or put a collar on without slowly and gradually introducing it to our dogs. And so what we do is we take the piece of equipment, we sprinkle it on the floor, we put a few treats around it, and then we kind of work up to the animal choosing to engage with the item. And so let's look at these two videos of that.
Hello. In this video, I'm going to teach you how to teach your puppy to be comfortable with equipment. And so that can be anything that you put on them, their collar, their harness, their leash, winter booties, stuff like that. And so what we're going to do here is I'm just going to slowly introduce her harness. And so I'm going to just show it to her, and then I'm going to give her a treat. And I'm going to show it to her, and I'm going to give her a treat. And so I'm doing this to help her create a positive association with it. And then I'm just going to show her open like that and give her a treat through. And some puppies might not be able to start there, and so I might just present it and then Benny, she's leaving. Benny. I might just present it and then not feed through initially. It depends on the puppy. And so I'm going to present it, feed through, and then I'm going to present it again and feed through the hole. And I saw her kind of back away there, so I'm going to slow down. I'm not going to move any faster for her. But I'm teaching her that interacting with this predicts treats. And so she let me gently put it over top of her head. And so I'm going to feed, 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 feed. And then I'm going to take it off. And when I take it off, there's no treats. So I really want her to realize that when my harness goes on, treats appear. And so now I'm going to present it again. And if they do start biting, which lots of puppies will, I'm just going to switch for a treat, and I'm going to toss my treats away. And then I'm going to present it again, And as she comes up, I'll feed through, pop it back over, feed, 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 feed. Good job, good girl, good job. And then I'm gonna take it off. And when I take it off, all the food disappears. And I'm gonna toss my treat away. Sometimes if puppies are right here, they'll start kind of climbing me. So she's trying to play with it again. And so I'm going to actually drop it so that I'm not starting a tug game with her. And I'm gonna try and trade for a treat. Good girl. And then I'm gonna remove it. And we're gonna try again. And sometimes this can only be a 30-second to a minute training session. I don't want it to be too much for them. And so I'm gonna present it, and I'm gonna feed treats through. Good job, and I'm gonna do it up. And so sometimes the doing up can be hard for them, and so it is for her. So I'm actually going to put more treats on the ground while I do this up. And I'm gonna do that probably multiple times. Good girl. Just to help her, make it a little bit of an easier transition. And then over time, good girl, they're more calm as you put it on. Thanks for watching. And here's another video of Shelby clicker training her dog to put his nose and head through the harness.
Good boy. Good job. Good boy.
Hello, in this video, and so we recommend for leash equipment that you have a 6-foot leash for walks around the block, and then you'll have a longer 15 to 30-foot leash for decompression walks, which we'll talk a little bit about, and working on recall practice. And often we recommend a harness that's appropriately fitted or a flat collar. Sometimes with really tiny puppies, it's hard to find harnesses that small, and you may need to start with a flat collar and then move on to a harness when they're a little bit bigger. And so this is a video of what a decompression walk looks like. So essentially you just put them on a long leash.
Come on!
And they sniff and walk and just act like a dog. And I find it's really important, especially when we're doing a lot of loose leash walking training, that we also incorporate decompression walks into that training plan, because otherwise it's a lot of work. And it's really important that our puppies get to sniff and run around and act like dogs, and decompression walks is a safe way for them to do that. So playing with toys, I think you should absolutely play with toys with your puppies, as long as they do not get overstimulated or it doesn't cause biting to happen. And so it's really important because toy play does strengthen the relationship between you and your dog. Please allow your dog to take the toy and win. It's very reinforcing for them, and it can be used for training and just for fun. So you can incorporate a drop it cue and teach drop it that way, but it's also just a fun way to play with your dog. And so here's a video of what this would look like and how to teach your puppy to do it. Hello, in this video, I'm going to teach you how to play tug with your puppy. Ideally, you use 2 toys of the same value, and it's also a great way to teach drop it. So what I do first is I give her the first one and we tug, 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 and we play, And don't tug too hard with your puppies. And then I let go and I let her have it. And while she's playing with that one, all of a sudden this one in my hand gets very exciting. And so then we'll start tugging with this one, and while she's tugging this, I pick up this toy. And then I'm gonna let her win and have that one. And then while she's playing with that, this one in my hand gets very exciting. Oh, good girl, good girl, good job, good job. And you can also, by doing this, work up to a drop it cue. So I can let her have that one, and as she spits it out, I can say, drop it, and then we can start with this one. And I'll show you that again. So we'll tug, 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 and I'll give it to her, and as she spits it out, what's this? I'll add the cue, and I have to wait. I gotta wait till she spits it out. Right now she's playing with it. What's this one? What's this one? Do you want this one? You want it? Drop it. Good girl. She kind of grabbed it at the same time, and I'll let her have that. And we'll do the same thing. What's this? What's this, Betty? Drop it. Good girl. And then she gets the next toy. And it's really good so that they always learn that you do also have something exciting, and you're not always just going to take their toys or things away from them. So I like them to be comfortable tugging back and forth. I'm happy to let her take the toy, and then we can always trade for this one. Good job, good job. Good girl, thanks for watching.
All right, and so that's what it looks like. It's pretty fun to teach them to do that. So this can be a big concern, and we really want to be preventing resource guarding with our puppies when we can. So if they have taken something that they're not supposed to have, we do not chase them. So it's not recommended to chase them. That often will initially kind of turn into a game, and it might be reinforcing for them to be chased, but it can also start getting very scary for them, because that predicts down the road that you're going to take what they have. And so what we do recommend is that you trade for a higher value item. And so you can either try and trade for a toy, or you can trade for treats. Separately, you would work on a drop it cue so that that can be used when items are taken. We do like to work on positive proximity is what I call it. And so you teach them that your approach predicts something good. So if they have something valuable, let's say they took a shoe, for example, and they're chewing on the shoe, every time you approach, you just drop a piece of food. And they're like, okay, so not every time this person comes over, they're going to take my valuable item. Eventually, you are going to trade for that shoe. But if they're even, this is something you can practice just with their food bowls while they're eating their food bowls. And so that's what this video demonstrates, is that while the dog is eating, the owner is tossing treats. This dog does guard food, but it's the same sort of exercise that you can do preventatively. So you're going to approach, you're going to give treats, pick the item up, and then give the item back. That's also another exercise you can do. So this is what it looks like when we're doing positive proximity. So we're just teaching them while they're playing with their toy, while they're eating their food out of their dish, that you're just going to come by, drop them some treats, and keep going. We're not taking the item away. There can be separate sessions where you would approach, give treats, pick up the item, give more treats, and then give the item back as well.
So once you start, then just start tossing. Yeah. And keep tossing. And then I'd move away. And I'd reapproach. Toss a few more. Yeah. And so we're going to end with some enrichment. So enrichment is very, very important for all species, especially for our puppies, to help keep them mentally stimulated, give them outlets for natural behavior. So that's really what enrichment is. It is species-specific behaviors that utilize your dog's senses.
So food puzzle toys are wonderful for food enrichment. Hide and seek are all really good examples. I do recommend that people rotate toys every 3 to 4 days to decrease the chances of boredom. And then consider feeding food, their daily food ration in a food puzzle toy. So here's a few ideas. Hide and seek, tossing kibble in the grass or in the snow when it's snowing. Digging boxes are amazing. So essentially you can take an empty sandbox or you can build a box, place sand in it, hide some treats in it. And if you do have a puppy that loves to dig in the garden, this is an alternative. It allows them to dig, which is something that's very natural for a lot of dogs. But it's in a spot that they're allowed to do that. And then alternatively, you would manage the garden area so they don't have access to it while they're learning to use their digging box. Paper towels are wonderful. You can just close up the ends, poke some holes, put some treats in there, and they can roll those around. They can also chew them up as long as they're not ingesting them. Boxes with holes cut into them that have treats hidden inside using ice cube treats. So that's on the right-hand side here. These are gigantic ice cubes that I freeze in the summer for my dogs. And then hiding treats under cups. And so that's really good scent detection game. And so you just hide the treat, and when they find the right cup that has a treat in it, they can have the treat. And other things like really fun ball pits, different Kong toys, food puzzle toys are all great ideas for your puppies. So we'll talk a little bit about what we offer at Companion Veterinary Clinic. So dependent on restrictions, and when you are viewing this webinar, because that's kind of changes over the course of the year, we do offer private training, which is for basic manners, kind of nuisance behaviors like counter surfing, pulling on leash, and then of course problem prevention. We do offer behavior modification training and packages. We do love to do cooperative veterinary care, and those are what we call our fear-free sessions. So we do prevention and treatment for veterinary husbandry and handling. That means teaching your pets to be comfortable with nail trims, muzzle training, veterinary exams, injections, that sort of thing. And those right now, everything is being done virtually, but check the website because that does change when restrictions change. All the puppy classes and adolescent and adult dog classes are held virtually right now. But also check the website. We do run 3 puppy classes, a puppy socialization and exploration class, a puppy foundations class for puppies that are a little bit older. Then we have a distractions class that's really fun for puppies. And as well as we have adolescent and adult dog training classes, as well as trick training classes. So we do offer a lot of classes. But what is running at what time is all on our website. We also offer cooperative care classes, so for nail trims and training preventatively for veterinary care. So when you are looking for a trainer, or if you are looking for a trainer, you really want to be looking for certification and involvement through the Certification Council of Professional Dog Trainers, the Karen Pryor Academy, the International Association of Animal Behavior Consultants. The Academy of Dog Trainers is another resource that has wonderful certified dog trainers through it. So it is very important that you are looking to see what that certification encompasses. So everything is a little bit different because dog training is an unregulated industry, but there are wonderful organizations like the ones I've listed that have a positive, ethical, and humane training certification. There are a number of certifications that are not ethical or humane that people are training dogs with. So it's really important that you do your homework. If you want, you ask to sit in on a class. You can audit them virtually, or if it's an in-person class at that point, you can do that as well. You really want to be looking for a trainer that focuses on reinforcing good behavior rather than using punishment. We do not, there are big red flags, like the words pack leadership, alpha dog, dominance, to go running the other way if you hear those. And we do not recommend ever choosing a trainer that insists on using choke collars, prong collars, shock collars, leash jerks and corrections, Those are never recommended, and they're not necessary to train any animal, whether it's a puppy or an adult dog with a behavior concern. If you're interested in learning more about puppies and dogs, these are book recommendations that we have, and they can be found, most of them can be found on Amazon and in your local bookstore. So these are wonderful for puppies and dog behavior. If you're looking for resources, we have a resource page on our website that has a bunch of free handouts: puppy biting, house training, crate training, food enrichment, handling. So you can access those handouts there. Family Paws is a wonderful resource for families with children and dogs. Fear-Free Happy Homes, wonderful. Kiko Pup has a wonderful YouTube channel that has a ton of training videos. Positive Dog Husbandry and Nail Maintenance for Dogs Facebook page is, they're wonderfully run Facebook pages that teach you how to do nail trims and how to get your pups ready for veterinary care. Canine Enrichment is a really good Facebook page as well. And the Alberta Force Free Alliance is a wonderful organization in Alberta that has a list of positive, humane, ethical trainers, as well as other businesses such as groomers, daycares, veterinary clinics, etc. So if you want to keep up with what we're doing, you can follow us on social media. So CVC Animal Training on Facebook and CVC Animal Training on Instagram. Often there's training tips posted, there's new resources and handouts, and then also any information on upcoming events and webinars you will find there. If you have any questions at all after watching this webinar, feel free to email training@companionvet.ca and we'll be happy to assist you. And I will leave you with this cute video of my daughter clicker training our dog when she was just a young girl. Thank you very much for watching.